So we want to investigate whether bells or people ringing bells can guide spirits. In Bali, there's a bell that rings for the dead. Ancient, it's sacred. Its sound doesn't just echo through the air, it crosses worlds, creating a bridge between our world and the next world. A spiritual call, a signal to the soul it's time to move on. It ushers the soul towards the afterlife. During Balinese creation ceremonies, the bell doesn't ring just once. It rings again and again and again. It's guiding or cleansing or comforting, whatever the purpose might be at that particular time. Once I was on my motorbike and I was going down the road, and this large group of Balinese people stopped all traffic. They were dressed nice in the traditional Balinese gear. There were a procession of women, and they had drinks and fruits, foods, and ceremonial artifacts, some carrying on their heads. And then along came these large boxes that men were carrying up above their heads. And I realized they were carrying coffins. And I hadn't seen this before. I was kind of new, but it was a large procession that just went on and on like a parade right down the middle of the street. It didn't matter that they stopped all of the traffic. They were carrying forward with this funeral procession. And what they do is they take them all the way down to the sea, and then they have a funeral pyre where they burn the souls, and then they're released to the afterworld. And I learned that something really interesting after that is that a lot of the people, when they die, they can't afford the funeral. They can't afford this ceremony. If someone dies and they can't afford their own funeral, they will actually bury them, and they'll bury them next to a temple. And then they'll either do one of two things. They might wait and have enough other people who pass away and get buried and wait until there's enough that the families can pool their resources and afford to have the ceremony. Or if they're lucky, someone wealthy in the community will die, and the wealthy person will pay for the funeral, and everyone else gets to go along with that, which is where they reinter, dig up those dead bodies. The bodies are cleansed, they are placed in a sarcophagus, and then they join the ceremony. The bells are used to guide the souls to the afterlife. Each toll echoes through the community, a reminder that life is fleeting and death is sacred. These are the same bells that are used for space cleaning, and by space cleaning, any area, a home, a villa, where the priest, the Mangku, will come in. A temple will be prepared. The families help prepare the temples. But a special priest comes in who rings this bell and cleanses the area of its negative energy to restore harmony and balance to the place. And then the family who lives there, the owner, will continue to feed that spirit house daily, and they feed it with prayers and with incense and fruit and flowers and other, sometimes coins or other objects. The bell itself is beautiful. It is made from bronze, a combination of mostly copper and a little bit of tin. At the top of the bell rests a Hindu crown. This is the crown of Vishnu and Vishnu's avatars. The avatars are who represents Vishnu, and the most famous who wears this crown is known as Rama. Then there's a sharp set of claws, 4 claws that surround that Hindu crown, an elaborate handle with colored gems at the base. And then at the bottom are intricate carvings of religious symbols. There are 8 of them on this particular bell. And these little microscopic carvings, tiny, tiny little etched carvings, will glow in the light as you spin it. In Bali, the death bell is more than a ceremony object, it's a guide. When it rings during a cremation ceremony, it's not just honoring the dead, it's helping them. It cuts through the material world like through fog, carrying prayers, intentions, and the soul into the unseen. The bell doesn't just mark the end, it is actually marking the passage itself. But before the bell can guide a soul, it must be born itself, and the birth of the bell is no less sacred. We always had a driver in Bali named G'day, who turned into our dear friend. He would drive us places. He was especially excited to drive us to a place called Sedaman, this beautiful place out below the mountain of Mount Agung, the sacred mountain. His mom lived in the area, so he was very happy to go see her. Of course, since his mom lived there, he knew the area well and could show us lots of sights. And he took us to the resort of Wapa de Uma, which is breathtakingly beautiful. The hotel, the resort itself, but also the area surrounding it was just gorgeous. And G'day took us to a shop nearby, and we were just looking at things. I saw this in these precious ceremonies. I saw the bells, the cremation bells, but I couldn't resist and I bought one. There is an ancient clan of blacksmiths on Bali who make the bells by hand. The skills were passed down from generation to generation since the Bronze Age. Several thousands of years these skills have been passed down, where the bronze is melted, poured, and then the object is cast in metal. It's forged with care, it's tuned with reverence. Each one has its own unique special sound, and the bell then becomes a tool of purification, to clear away negativity, to invite the divine, to help souls cross from this world to the next. I can remember growing up, I was an altar boy at St. Rita's Catholic Church in Ranger, Texas, and we rang a bell when we came into the altar area. There was a bell by the door, kind of like to alert everyone that Mass was beginning. During the preparation of communion, the consecration of the host, the body and the blood, when those words were spoken by the priest, when this is my body, this is my blood, we had these little set of bells that we jingled, just for 3 or 4 seconds, made a beautiful sound. But we were always jealous because only one of the altar boys got to ring the bells, and that was like the special treat to be able to do that. There was also a large bell in the belfry at the entrance to the church. I can remember my dad got to ring it for special occasions, Easter, Christmas Mass, those type of things. You could hear it all throughout town even. And I can remember this rope that came down. If you walked up into the attic, the back of the church, this rope sort of just dropped through the roof. And I can remember my dad ringing it and me grabbing a hold of it and this thing lifting me off the ground as the bell rang. It was a very special experience. The use of the bell is not unique to Bali religious ceremonies, and I'm sure you've seen bells used in other ceremonies. In fact, they're quite popular in religion. Maybe what they're doing with the bells may seem strange. One religion may think the other religion is a little bit strange, but they all kind of have a similar purpose. It's another example of a thread that runs through all the human-made religions, runs through faiths, and they're very meaningful. Even if they are a little strange. I learned later that the bells, when we walked in, the bell rang to let people know that Mass was beginning. It used to be that Masses were in Latin and they were lengthy, and people would literally fall asleep, especially in the back of the church. So a lot of the bells, when they rang, it was like, this is an important part of the Mass. Wake up now and pay attention. So they sort of served a dual purpose. They were spiritual, but then they also served a more practical purpose. Looking at some of the other bells across the world, there's one for Buddhism. And in Tibetan Buddhism, the bell you see is very similar to the Balinese Hindu bell. But in Tibetan Buddhism, the bell sound is the voice of wisdom and compassion, and it's guiding the soul toward enlightenment. I visited in southern Korea, in the old Silla or Shilla Empire, and they had tried to build this massive bell, and they would ring it the first time and it would crack, and they would rebuild it, recast it, and crack again and again. So finally the king had a vision that a young boy must be sacrificed, and they threw a young boy into the molten metal, and he became part of the bell, and then the bell miraculously worked. To this day, that bell still works. The Shinto shrines of Japan, bells cleanse the space before prayer. The same sort of idea, sweep away the impurity, allow the divine to enter. Bells are named Suzu. Also, there are bells throughout African cultures. There are several spiritual traditions. There's one, the African Yoruba bell, that's used to speak to the ancestors, to summon guidance and honor their legacy. One sound, infinite meanings, yet all of them sacred. It was John Donne who wrote that poem was made famous by Hemingway. He wrote a book about the Spanish Civil War. He wrote a book about some guerrillas who were fighting and trying to blow up a bridge during the Spanish Civil War, and he named that book For Whom the Bell Tolls. And the bell tolls when someone has died. It's a signal to the community that there's been a death. But the poet says, never ask for whom the bell tolls. The bell tolls for thee. I don't believe the bells are talking to the dead. If the dead have entered the afterlife, they probably too are concerned with listening to the bells being played back in this world. They've probably moved on to something greater. That many people believe these bells are speaking and guiding and cleansing, and I believe in these people who do believe in that, even if I don't. I also believe these bells are speaking to us. They're speaking to the living. They're speaking to you. And I think that's very real if you can open up and hear them. The bell's sound belongs to all of us. Wherever we live, whatever we believe, the bell tolls as a call to remember. We are connected to the divine, to each other, to those who came before, and to those who will come after. And when the final bell rings, may we listen, not with fear, but with wonder.